Hi, and welcome to Lead Worth, a space for thoughtful ideas, better decisions, and lifelong learning. Let me begin with a simple question. Why is it that two people can start at the same place in life, with similar opportunities, similar education, and similar resources, yet years later, their lives look completely different? One feels calm, stable, and confident about the future. The other feels rushed, stressed, and constantly behind. It's easy to assume the difference is luck, or intelligence, or background. But often the real difference is something quieter. Not talent, not hustle, not motivation. The difference is philosophy, how a person thinks about life, how they manage their days, and how they respond to challenges, how they make small decisions when no one is watching. Today, I want to share a story built around 7 simple strategies. They don't promise shortcuts, they don't rely on hype, and they don't ask you to become someone you're not. Instead, they show how small daily disciplines, practiced consistently, can lead to both wealth and happiness. Not overnight, not dramatically, but steadily. This is not a story about getting rich fast. It's a story about building a life that feels stable, intentional, and meaningful. So take a breath, settle in, and let's begin. Strategy 1: Goals. The first strategy is goals. A life without goals rarely collapses suddenly. It simply drifts, not because something went wrong, but because nothing was clearly chosen. Imagine a ship leaving a harbor without a destination. The ocean doesn't decide where it ends up. The weather doesn't decide. Time doesn't decide. Indecision does. Goals give direction to effort. They turn busy days into meaningful progress. Here's a simple example. Imagine two people starting the same job at the same time. Same role, same salary, same responsibilities. The first person shows up, does the work, and hopes things improve with time. The second person quietly sets goals. Nothing extreme. They decide to improve one skill every few months. They decide to become more reliable than expected. They decide to plan instead of react. 5 years later, the difference is clear. Not because one worked harder every day, but because one worked with direction. Goals act like a filter. They help you say no to distractions and yes to progress. But the most powerful goals are not about money. They're about identity. Instead of asking, what do I want to have? Ask, what kind of person do I want to become? A person who finishes what they start, a person who plans ahead, a person who keeps promises to themselves. When goals shape who you are becoming, results follow naturally. Strategy 2: Continuous learning. The second strategy is continuous learning. Learning is not something you finish, it's something you practice. The world changes slowly, then suddenly. Skills that once mattered fade. New ones quietly replace them. The people who struggle most are rarely the least intelligent. They are the most resistant to learning. Consider a simple example. One person finishes formal education and assumes they now know enough. Another person keeps learning, just a little each year. One new idea, one useful skill, one improved method. Not out of pressure, but out of curiosity. Over time, the gap grows, not overnight. Not dramatically, but consistently. Learning compounds. You don't need to know everything. You just need to know a little more this year than last year. Confidence doesn't come from pretending to have all the answers. It comes from trusting your ability to learn what's next. Strategy 3: Money management. The third strategy is money management. Money reveals habits, not intelligence, not worth. Habits. Many people believe they will manage money better once they earn more. But money doesn't change behavior, it exposes it. Here's a safe example. Two people earn the same income. One saves first, plans carefully, and spends intentionally. The other spends first and hopes something is left. Years later, one feels calm and prepared. The other feels anxious, even if income increases. The difference is not opportunity, it's discipline. Money managed well creates freedom. Freedom to make choices calmly. Freedom to handle unexpected moments. Freedom to think long term. Wealth is not about impressing others, it's about protecting your future self. Strategy 4: Time management. The fourth strategy is time management. Time doesn't disappear, it gets traded. Every hour is exchanged for something: progress, distraction, or regret. Imagine two people ending their workday at the same time. One lets the evening dissolve into distraction and postponement. The other uses just one focused hour. Not every night, not perfectly, just consistently enough. They plan the next day, they learn something useful, they improve a small habit. Months later, the difference appears. Not because of intensity, but consistency. Successful people don't fill every minute, they protect the important ones. Money can return, time never does. 5. People and environment. The fifth strategy is people and environment. Your environment shapes you more than motivation ever will. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your surroundings. Consider this example. Someone wants to improve their habits. They want to read more, think clearly, and grow financially. But their environment normalizes complaining, shortcuts, and distraction. Progress becomes difficult. Now imagine the same person spending time around people who value learning, responsibility, and calm thinking. No pressure, no judgment, just exposure. Gradually, behavior shifts, not by force, but by influence. You don't need to abandon anyone, but you must choose who shapes your thinking. Environment silently shapes identity. Choose wisely. Strategy 6. Communication. The sixth strategy is communication. Ideas don't move on their own, they need a voice. Many capable people remain unnoticed. Not because they lack value, but because they never learned how to express it clearly. Picture a simple scenario. Two people have the same idea. One explains it simply and confidently. The other hesitates, overcomplicates, or stays silent. Guess which idea moves forward? Communication isn't about being loud, it's about being clear. Speak with intention, listen fully, choose words carefully. Clear communication builds trust, and trust creates opportunity. Strategy 7. Life philosophy. The final strategy is life philosophy. This is the foundation beneath everything else. Two people face the same challenge. One grows, the other gives up. The difference is not circumstance, it's interpretation. Consider a setback. One person sees failure and stops, another sees feedback and adjusts. Same event, different meaning, different outcome. You cannot control everything that happens, but you always control how you respond. Change your philosophy and behavior changes. Change behavior and results follow. Success is not chased, it's attracted by the person you become. Before I end, let me share a story. Imagine two people starting today, same age, same opportunity. One says, "I'll start later." The other says, "I'll take responsibility now." Years pass. The difference is not luck, it's daily discipline. Wealth without happiness feels hollow. Happiness without discipline feels fragile. But when these 7 strategies work together, they create a life that feels calm, stable, and meaningful. Not rushed, not forced, just well lived. Thank you for listening to Lead Worth. If this story helped you think a little more clearly, take it with you and